my friends! It is I, Merlinstergandaldore! Today's Reviewcap is a very special report. I was able to astrally project from the Soul Gem to Glen Williams, Ontario for the Dungeon Ministers event, CleriCon!
CleriCon was a mini-OSR gaming convention that Father Aaron wanted to host to help build our little community in a positive direction. And positive it was. Several dozen OSR enthusiasts got together and played games, chatted, sold, and traded, and had an all-round good time. The Mage's Musings tables continued the Keep on the Borderlands campaign with a dozen guest players over 2 sessions. I shall recap these sessions and discuss the pros and cons of, con play.
And so, my friends, settle in, get a snack, and let's have at it!
As is the norm, the action will be recreated using the Order of the Stick Monster for Every Season cutout minis. A note to players at the CleriCon table: for the sake of variation on the show, some minis in the recreation may not match what was used at the table. For the convention, players were able to choose from a selection of pre-generated characters of various levels and abilities. One final note: some players opted to use aliases instead of their given names for the purpose of the recaps. The players for Session 1. Claude as Burr, a neutral gnome, level 2. Chris as Nick Deathrage, chaotic magic user, level 3. Samantha as Opus, lawful cleric of Foltis, level 3. General Nut as Bill, chaotic fighter, level 4. Rob as Herodotus, lawful cleric of Elona, level 4. Catherine as Seraphina, neutral druid, level 3. Skullknocker as Lormax Silver, chaotic thief, level 4. The session begins as a large group of mercenaries trudges up the path to the gates of the keep, just before sunset. They have arrived in pursuit of a criminal named Oliver of Home, who has abducted a well-known and loved noblewoman named Lady Sylvia. Intelligence they received suggested Home was to meet a slaver named Bolg to hand off the lady, who is likely to be delivered to slavers in the neighboring Ilarum. They are greeted by stalwart gate guard Gren the Frowning. At this point, the Dungeon Master suggests the group introduce themselves to one another. Though it's assumed the characters have some acquaintance, this helps the players at the table. And of course, the running joke of Gren the Frowning having to hold the gate for newcomers who decide to have such a conversation plays out as usual. Once through the gate, the group heads to the Traveller's Inn, the common meeting place at the keep. After asking around for a bit, the group is somewhat perturbed that the locals seem to know nothing of Lady Sylvia's abduction. This is logical, however, as the PCs were tipped off quickly, and it's not like Karamakos has a mass communication system. They discuss options and decide to see if any mercenaries who know the area might be available. The dice say that one is a local halfling called Mungo Chubb.
Mungo.
Shush! Let it play out. Burr the gnome attempts to recruit Mungo, who requests 25% of the spoils. Burr takes the offer to the group, all of whom balk at the 25% number, but are interested. Lormac the thief is particularly offended by this. They suggest offering 20% plus food, but ultimately agree to his terms. When he asks what the mission is, they mention that they are here to rescue Lady Sylvia, who has been taken. Upon hearing this, and a positive reaction roll, Mungo immediately declares, "Why didn't you say so?" Opus, Lormac, and Bill head to the Church of Foltis, where they meet the acolyte Kevin. Kevin knows nothing of Sylvia's abduction, but does mention a goblin raider who has been snatching people from the road near an area of the woods known as the Dim Rack. The chaotic Lormac eyes the donation strongbox, while the others are in conference with Kevin. At the Traveller's Inn, the others in the team learn that a previously lost shrine to Elona has been found by a local woodsman named Carson. Carson is deep in his cups, but even in his drunken state they are able to get some information out of him. Carson is aware of Bolg the Slaver, but is reluctant to accept the group's offer to hire him as a tracker and guide. He is just a woodsman, not a warrior. The team ultimately leaves him to his drink. Bill, Lormac, and Opus return, and the team deliberates further. As they discuss options for tracking this Bolg the Slaver, Nick and Opus spy an individual eyeing them somewhat suspiciously. He's somewhat well dressed, more so than the rest of the crowd, and gives the group one more glance before departing. Nick and Opus follow him and watch as he enters the Guild Hall, a building reserved for nobles and wealthy merchants. They return to the others. Mungo is able to shed light on the man's identity, indicating that he is a personal valet to a local wannabe noble named Caldwell. Mungo mentions Caldwell's climb through the ranks of wealth, and of his purchase of a nearby castle to secure his status. The castle was overrun with squatters, and he had to hire mercs to clear it out. The guild hall is well guarded, and they do not just let anyone in. Mungo does mention that he has honorary status due to his own hand in the rescue of Caldwell's brother a few months back. Lormac mentions that perhaps Mungo's fee will turn out to be worth the price. The team decides to make contact in case he knows something of Bolg. So Burr and Mungo head over to the guild, with Burr pretending to be Mungo's new valet, so that he can accompany him inside. They find Caldwell's valet and engage in conversation. The positive reaction has him confess that he overheard them talking about Bolg, which concerns his master. He takes them to Caldwell, where Burr and Mungo speak with the man himself. After inquiry about his connection to Bolg the Slaver, Caldwell becomes sad, somewhat defeated. He doesn't know much about Bolg's movements, but offers that Bolg is a disciple of Gruumsh, the orc god. There is an abandoned temple to Gruumsh in the region that might be a starting point. While Burr and Mungo are with Caldwell, Seraphina and Herodotus have made the rounds attempting to find other retainers for extra muscle. And while she is unable to find any willing NPCs, our 8th player arrives, and the Dungeon Minister's young lad, Touchbury, joins in, playing Joe, Lawful Cleric of Ilona, level 3. Lormac the Thief uses the time to sneak back to the Church of Foltus and take a crack at the strongbox lock when the room is empty, but the lock is too much for his meager skill. Having gone unnoticed thus far, he decides not to push his luck and rejoins the team. The team decides that between investigating the Shrine of Ilona, the Dimrak Woods, or the Shrine of Gruumsh, the Shrine of Gruumsh is the most promising lead. They rest the night and plan to head out first thing in the morning. Caldwell informs them to head to the old watchtower, then due north to a massive oak on a hill. The shrine can be found via a cave entrance at the base of the hill. Mungo leads the group as they head into the woods. Though they have horses, the team leaves them behind as they'll be heading over uneven ground. Travel is uneventful thanks to the dice turning up no random encounters, and the team spends some time searching the area. Seraphina casts the druid spell Detect Danger to give them a heads up in case of trouble, but scanning the area turns up nothing so far. Finding the entrance Caldwell mentioned, they creep in cautiously, and the rough-hewn walls become wrought stone as they enter an underground compound. Touchbury and Bill stick together and coordinate their efforts, with Bill ready to fight and Touchbury lighting his lamp to illuminate the team's progress. Burr sneaks forward, finding a sleeping goblin sentry, then quietly returns to the group. Lormac then sneaks forward in an attempt to quietly kill the goblin, while the rest of the team inches forward providing illumination. A lizard man emerges from a side tunnel, but no surprise is rolled and combat is joined. Lormac takes a devastating blow from the lizard man's mace as the others race in to help him. The scrum is chaos as the shooters have trouble getting a bead on the lizard. An errant slingstone strikes Lormac, which, combined with the nasty hit from the lizard, is enough to end the thief's life. The lizard man is killed, but the goblin has been woken up by the commotion and flees deeper into the compound. Listening down the side corridor, they hear muffled speech. Burr moves in and finds a human bound and gagged. And thus we have our contrived character entrance of Skullknocker's new character, Morlin Sepis, a neutral bard, level 3. A quick scan of the side room yields nothing else beyond Morlin's gear, so they continue on. Moving forward, the team hears the sound of goblin voices. They shutter the lamps and press against the walls. Burr casts dancing light to create the illusion of torches moving down in another direction, which succeeds in attracting the approaching group of goblins and luring them away. Nick spies an opportunity and casts Charm Person on the leader as they run by, laying the powerful enchantment on it before it disappears from sight. Eventually realizing they've been had, the goblins return, but Nick exerts the charm and the leader has the other goblins stand down while he cozies up to his new best friend. Morlun the Bard begins playing a tune, using the Bard ability to fascinate, mesmerizing the goblins to keep them subdued. Eventually, he's able to charm all but one. The last one is perplexed by it all, but defers to its leader and fellows. Nick offers random rocks as a gift to the goblin leader. The goblins are confused, but just accept it as a stupid human custom. Thanks to the charm, the group easily gets the info they want from the goblins. That Oliver of Home is indeed here with Lady Sylvia and awaits Bolg's arrival. They convince the goblins that they are the buyers here to take Sylvia and to take them to her. This seems quite reasonable to the charmed goblins, who gladly lead the team right to where Sylvia is being held. In a massive hall, they see the young woman bound to a chair. She is guarded by an owlbear. Oliver is nowhere to be seen. The goblins don't know where he currently is. The owlbear roars aggressively, but won't seem to attack with the goblins there. On the flip side, however, attempts to persuade the goblins to attack the owlbear also fail.
Goblin cowardice is more powerful than the charm.
Seraphina wonders if her Speak with Animals spell will work on such a beast, and decides to attempt it. But alas, an owlbear is outside the parameters of the spell. Acting fast while they have the opportunity, Opus blinds it with a light spell, and the team assails the creature. The goblins, seeing that the hated owlbear is now vulnerable, aid the group. During the melee, Bill moves around combat, grabs Lady Sylvia, tossing her over his shoulders and retreating. The massive swarm of combatants makes short work of the blind owlbear, and the goblins seem happy with the prospect of owlbear meat for dinner. After combat ends, Morlun reminds the team that his charm over the goblins is only brief, so they decide to depart quickly while the goblins are happy with their prospective meal. It is unfortunate that they weren't able to confront Oliver of Home, but the rescue of Lady Sylvia is a big victory, so they return to the keep in triumph. Thus, the first installment of the CleriCon sessions concludes.
Eight players! Whew! That's a big table! And generally more than this DM is used to, especially when all but two of the players are complete strangers. The
session at CleriCon represents a few obvious differences from the normal game. The absence of any regulars for one, but also, as it was a convention game, the need to go in with a one-shot mindset.
One-shots aren't the forte of the DM here, who not only prefers long-form campaign-style play, but open-world concepts where players have maximum agency.
So, the decision was to attempt to blend the two. Thus, the plan for the day was to give the players a task, in this case, rescue Lady Sylvia and defeat Oliver of Home. But no railroads here, the players had to do the legwork. Failure was indeed on the table. Several short scenarios were prepared and ready, as well as the usual materials in the setting around the keep on the Borderlands. It was decided that since people signing up for the table were likely familiar with the show, that it would indeed share the continuity with the ongoing scenario. Prepping for the sessions involved a boatload of pre-generated PCs. Having everyone roll their characters would have just eaten too much time, so naturally pre-gens are the most elegant solution. Given the high casualty rate, quite a few were made up, well over 30 pre-gens. The players got to choose the first character they started with from the selection on the table, but any player whose character died in-game had to take their subsequent characters blind from the top of the pile.
Two things went slightly askew here. The first being that because Father Aaron was buried in tons of administrative paperwork due to putting the event together, the table was overbooked. Because of a, clerical error.
Yeah. I was a bit of an organizational mess.
A cap of 6 players was requested, but a miscount and a last-minute request for a seat meant that the table had 8. A little unwieldy, but still functional, though each character was pre-leveled, so having 8 players in the level 3 to 5 range really did boost the power level of the whole rather noticeably. If it was known in advance the table would be a group of 8, then likely everyone would have been kept at level 1, but that's neither here nor there. The other thing was on the DM, which is, of course, the area of preparation. Not so much the amount of prep, but where that prep was focused and the decision of how to distribute information. In preparing the possible dungeons for the players, the DM considered the weight of information coming the players' way. The original plan was to be a little coy about the true dungeon, in this case the dungeon associated with the scenario The Abduction of Princess Sylvia from Module B9. Along with this, 3 other possible scenarios were ready, with the plan to distribute clues as to the location of Oliver and Sylvia, the real path being the most obscure.
Of course, the quickest way to make fate laugh at you is to make a plan, am I right?
The module itself is, as I said, another offering from B9, Castle Caldwell and Beyond, the 4th of the 5 scenarios to be played in this campaign. As with other offerings from B9, the scenario is, at its core, a great little scenario that's easily inserted into any ongoing game, requiring only a little bit of tweaking. The basic setup as written can use a little finessing, but the classic trope of rescuing a fair maiden is tried and true, and this scenario can easily provide the right level of challenge and reward.
I will hold off until the end of CleriCon Reviewcap Part 2 to go over this one in depth, as the players do make a return, so let's see how that one plays out before we get into the whole thing. Stay tuned, my friends! Part 2 of the CleriCon Reviewcaps is coming soon!